So good evening, friends. And I must thank you all for coming here. For some of you at a very short notice, particularly to celebrate with us an important event in the life of an institution, which is the second anniversary. All anniversaries are important, but particularly the initial anniversaries are more important. Because if you don't survive in the initial years, you'll not see the long way ahead. And therefore, the second anniversary is an extremely important event in which we thought we must invite our friends, our well-wishers, those who will guide us, and those who will work with us to shape a vision for India, and not just for India, but for the rest of the world, to find out how we can meet some of the major challenges that the humanity is facing today. If you go in any part of the world, you will find people struggling for water. Those parts of the world where there is too much of water, they have a problem because there is too much of water. How do you deal with that? I think some part of India today, there's a doubt. But in some part of India, they're also facing a problem because of water, because there's too much water. In a place like Rajasthan, which used to be known as the desert state, I think after some time, if somebody says in a school exam that Rajasthan is a desert state, probably will not get marked because it is now becoming like a flooding state. So these are the challenge of water is always there in any part of the world. Environment, which is now becoming a very important issue in almost all parts of the world. Whether it's a developed nation, industrialized countries, or poor nations, developing countries. All of them face these challenges. And energy, which is in fact now again, after so many years of having discovered fossil fuels, now we are realizing that we will need energy. Without that we can't survive. But we need type of energy which is not going to create a type of problems that the use of fossil fuel is creating. And therefore, energy, environment and water have become one of the most important issues for the humanity. And these issues wouldn't have become as challenging as they are now had we probably married them together and created a policy framework in which we could implement each one of them in an integrated manner. But as we normally see, that each of these is implemented in a very compartmentalized manner. Particularly in India, we have a very good number of ministries who deal with water, 13 of them. Energy, only 8, 9 of them. But fortunately, environment only 1. But that's good. Having been a minister of all these 3, I know that rarely we have any connection with the other ministries. Till I went into that ministry, I was always thinking that that ministry is responsible for my problem. But then I said, then I was a problem because I was in that ministry before. So how do you actually integrate energy, environment and water into issues at policy formulation and also at the implementation of them? And therefore this organization, which is Council for Energy, Environment and Water, actually tries to address these issues. And as I said, it's an Indian organization formed in India, but a think tank which we feel should look at global issues from Indian perspective, but also from the perspective mainly of the developing countries. And that's what this organization hopes to do in the years to come. A long journey is ahead, but in last 2 years, we have done quite a lot. And I'm going to ask Dr. Arunabha Ghosh, my very illustrious colleague, to talk about it a little later. But this organization has a vision to make sure that we actually work on these issues in an integrated manner. So one is a policy formulation where there is a problem because if you don't have right policy, obviously the implementation will always be flawed. But even if you have the best of policies, if you don't implement it properly, again we have a problem. So we really need to work at macro level to form a policy, but also at a micro level when the implementation takes place. And that's what precisely this organization is trying to do. Dr. Arunabha Ghosh will tell you about how we are working in a state of Bihar, how we are trying to work in other places to try to find out whether we can create an integrated plan, not just for the state, but over a period of time for a district, and how we can use this knowledge, this experience that we have gathered from here for the benefit of other countries. At the same time, how we can learn from other countries to make sure that we also formulate a plan and implement them with not those mistakes which they might have committed, and with the best practices that probably we can get from them. And that is what precisely the CEEW is going to do over a period of time. We are extremely fortunate to have a very distinguished board. You can say, I should not say distinguished, I am the only one, probably is an exception. But we have Mr. Jamshed Godrej, who, as you know, is not just a leading industrialist, but a man with great heart and passion for these issues. We have Mr. Gautam Thapar. Both of them, I've seen how magnanimous they are, because they really provide a backbone support for this organization, and that's how we could walk this 2 years distance without much of a pain. So Gautam Thapar is another one. And of course, a glue that binds all of us together is Mr. Tarun Das, who actually is, really speaking, binds this environment, energy and water together. So the CEEW is in fact the invisible bond in that is Mr. Tarun Das. And of course we are very lucky to have a very knowledgeable, very accomplished person as a CEO, Dr. Arunabha Ghosh, who, really speaking, I have rarely met a person who can talk about all these three issues independently as well as together. So that's something, a very rare combination, and we are very fortunate to have him as a CEO, and we are really looking forward now to working more in areas like this. As I said, this is an organization based in India. We operate out of Delhi, but we really have a global vision. And in fact, in first few months of our existence, we signed an agreement with a province of Guangdong and a state of Maharashtra. Why we did that is they are the two most prosperous provinces in each of those countries. And these are the provinces which actually have an ability to change the way the development should take place in future. They are already prosperous, they have the wealth, but how are they going to now work on future in terms of transportation, in terms of agriculture practices, in terms of energy use, water management, how are they going to work? So we thought we'll sign an agreement between these two countries, and this, in fact, this agreement was signed because of the CEEW and Maharashtra government and Maharashtra governor of Maharashtra, as well as the governor of Guangdong, they signed the agreement. In fact, we want to really operationalize it, and I'm very happy that His Excellency, the Ambassador of China to India is here. So we like to work on that. As well as we have a very distinguished international advisory board, which has people from almost all continents of the world. So that's how we'll like to get a knowledge from each one of them to find out how this organization really becomes truly global. So it's an Indian think tank trying to work on global sphere. So very extremely happy that all of you are here, but I'm really privileged and honored by the fact that none other than the National Security Advisor, Ambassador Shiv Shankar Menon, has agreed to be the chief guest and also to guide us about how we can really work on this framework that I just mentioned. And in fact, he's the one who has the ability to actually make this happen, because he himself has articulated a concept of security does not necessarily mean the external security or the internal peace that we really need to maintain, but how can we get all this water security, the energy security, the soil security, the food security, all that mainstream into one single product. And that's something which we really look forward to that. I'll formally introduce Ambassador Menon. It doesn't need introduction, but as a formality a little later. But I'm indeed thankful to you for joining us, and really we look forward to this. I can see so many distinguished people who are sitting here in audience. Each one of them should have been here and talking about it. But I know you're here to lend your support to this organization, and we really value it a lot. So thank you very much, Excellencies, for coming. Thank you very much for distinguished ladies and gentlemen for being here, and we look forward to your continued association in the years to come. Thank you very much. Let me now request my friend, Dr. Arunabha Ghosh, to tell you a little more about how much we have done in just 2 years. And it is all has just happened in 2 years, mind you. When we'll tell you, we'll be really not believe it. That just could happen in 2 years. Yes, it is actually happened in 2 years. Thank you very much.